Hey, beautiful people. I'm Flo King. I'm the co-founder of RMP Home, and I'm from Toronto. I grew up in Moss Park, which is right by Regent, but I went to school down in Esplanade. At, I want to say 7 or 8 years old, I was taking the, 65 Parliament bus down to Esplanade, 6, 7 blocks, walking to school as if, I'm 15 years old, navigating this, this city. Latchkey kid, had my key hanging from my neck all day long, and I'd be out until God knows how many hours, because my mom was never home. So I was there running the streets. I'm surprised, I ended up where I am today because, I was just very independent. And I think, that has socialized me in a way where I'm able to meet new people, keep myself out of danger, know to detect when there's danger lurking in the background, and was able to make some proper decisions to get myself out. I mean, one that sticks out is that John Innes was a community center that was literally 3 blocks away from my house. And, as soon as it got dark, that's when all the crackheads came out. That's when all the, people looking for prostitutes came out. It turned into a very scary place. And so, me and my girlfriend at the time, we always tried to make it a point to get home before it got dark because it was just scary going home. Numerous times walking home, in the dark, we're getting yelled at by people in cars looking for prostitutes and stuff. And I mean, we're 10, 11 years old, so we don't even know what's happening. We're just why are they yelling at us and whatnot. So it's me and my girlfriend were stuck in a telephone booth at the time. And I remember Sherburne and Shooter stuck in the telephone booth. We didn't want to leave because we were just so scared. And then again, the neighborhood drug dealer seeing that, that we were there and was asking us what we're doing in this corner. And we were kind of we're just scared to walk home. And then, he just escorted us home and made sure we were safe. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying stuff like that. It's it doesn't happen anymore these days, but I guess back then it was just kind of again, how we looked out for each other, even though they weren't doing, the best. They were trying to provide for their family. But, in the end, they still looked out for the kids. And I'm just saying that has shaped and molded me, again, I guess, in the sense that, no matter what's happening, you kind of just look out for each other. My mother came from a different country, didn't know how to speak the language. And I feel she was left to her own devices as well. She had to sort herself out. She's a psychotherapist by trade, but then she started a makeup line. She was doing all of these things, and I'm always wondering, what is it that she's doing, even though she works full time and I don't see her from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. So I see all this inventory in our little, 2-bedroom apartment. And she's telling me all her plans and gold cream and gold flakes that help you keep you younger. And I'm just at the time I was still very young. So I was just I wasn't sure what was happening, but I was I didn't believe her. So, after a couple of years of this, she had to go and import this stuff, fill out whatever forms at customs. And I was just interested in seeing how she marketed and sold these products that, again, no one really knew about back then. And I think over time, having got pregnant when I was a young, I felt yes, education was important, but I also felt there was a need for me to find a creative outlet to let all of this ideas and energy out, because where I was working at the government, very restrictive, very political. You're not allowed to think for yourself. You kind of just have to go with the stream. And, and I couldn't live like that. Teal Flow was kind of just the launch pad to getting, to interviews with celebrities that came into town, got free access to parties. I would like to believe that I was the pioneer in Toronto taking pictures in the club. So these people would hold up my sign. It says Teal Flow. And then, and then I would post it on the internet, and people would, be able to pull their photos and post it on their MySpace page. That was a thing for a long time. I was in the clubs maybe 6, 7 years. And this is I still have a baby. So obviously, I was trying to get somewhere somewhere fast. Back in the day, you know, it was Universal Records and it was like Nike basketball and like Johnny Walker Black. Those are like all corporate clients that I worked with as far as selling advertisement on the website. So like that was kind of like the start of like me venturing off into this entrepreneur world. And I think, you know, that kind of set the stage for where I am now. Just a regular guy, man. Like, and you know, I haven't seen him for a while, or, you know, so I don't anticipate that, you know, he'd be the same. But, you know, at the time we were just like at his video shoot. Shane Sterling was doing his very first video with Trey Songz, and I was there doing footage. And I was like, you know, like people from Toronto, their mentalities are very like, you know, they don't support, they don't do nothing, they don't help to, you know, support the cause. And I feel like, you know, we're just kind of like a victim to all of this poor attitude, because it was just like, you know, Trey Songz is sitting right there, and this is before Trey Songz was busting too. And so, you know, we're just like, okay, just another video shoot. Even Sean Brown, I don't know if you know by Sean Brown, but like he has a whole you know, interior design company. You know, he works for Diddy, a good friend of mine back in the day. And that's where we all kind of met. You know, if I could go back in time and just kind of like, just congratulate people on the things that they were doing at the time, as opposed to like, you know, oh, like they're doing this and like, that's nice, and kind of just moving on and not even, you know, acknowledging it. Like, I feel like, you know, a lot of things could change. Well, one, I think it wasn't happening at that time. No one was doing it. It was a whole new, you know, industry. And I was a one-person band. Like, I was doing the web development, I was doing the content writing, I was doing the photography, I was doing the editing. Like, everything was going on, you know, that I could do. And I think, you know, a lot of the times it's just like, you don't know who to ask. You don't know who to turn to. And I think, you know, like back in the day, mentorship would have been really beneficial to me, because I'm just, again, but it didn't exist. This industry didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. Phones with cameras didn't exist. You know what I mean? So it was like, you're taking video on your phone, on your point and shoot camera, and then you have to import it to your laptop, and then you gotta, you know, make it into a web-friendly version. And like, it was just so much stuff. It's not anything like it is today. I don't even know how I survived. I remember the very first flip phone that had video. It was so grainy. It was like 30 seconds. I mean, you know, the kids now would have died. I talk a lot about partners because, like, I feel like, you know, there are like-minded individuals around you that, you know, that you can lean on. And I think, you know, there's something to be said when it's like you have someone else who thinks like you and that you can bounce ideas off of. So I'm not opposed to partnership, but I feel like, you know, there has to be some sort of standard set. Like, I know there's like shareholders agreements. I know there's like, you know, partnership corporation deals or whatnot, all this kind of paperwork. And I just don't know how to navigate that when things go awry. You know, partner broke up, you know, so restaurant blew up, and like, you know, life. And I don't know if there's anything I would change, because I don't think I'd be able to learn all of these lessons if I didn't go through this atrocity that is depression and, you know, overworked and spreading yourself thin, and like learning how to get through it, seeing that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, I don't know how I could change any of that, because then I wouldn't have this, you know, life experience. I wouldn't have, you know, these brands under my belt. I wouldn't, you know, have met all the people that I met. For a long time, I was just sweeping it under the rug. I wasn't acknowledging it. I wasn't telling anyone. I didn't even have the language to like communicate it. I was like, I don't know what's happening. I'm just sitting. And if you know me, I never just sit down and be quiet. It's just not in me. I do not operate like this. Doesn't matter what's happening. I could be in church. I could be at a party. There's never a time where Flo's just sitting down and not saying anything. I think the world in and of itself came to a realization that mental health is becoming a situation where it's like, it needs to be talked about. You know, I was just like in a place, very, very dark place, where I just, again, just couldn't find the words to communicate what I was dealing with. And even though my mom is a psychotherapist too, she is a therapist, she obviously isn't treating me like one of her clients. We too have our own issues between, you know, our dynamic, single mother, only child, you know, butting heads at every turn. And I think, you know, it was just, I don't think I had any other solutions but therapy. I heard people talk about it. You see it on TV, you know, Sopranos and stuff, but like, it's not, I didn't think I was at that level. I'm not here murdering people. I'm not killing anyone. I may have thought, you know, like me, I wanted to disappear. And it was just like, at that point, it was my last resort. It wasn't that anyone pushed me to do it. No one suggested it. It was just me. I just didn't know. I didn't have any resources left. And I was like, something has to change. And I think that was the realization of saying, hey, like, Flo, even if you don't have the words, just go and see what they have to offer. Being the self-motivator, you know, and just, again, all around person who's just looks for solutions. I just had to just sort this out and figure it out. And listen, that solution doesn't work for everybody. Mentorship is a big thing. And I think that is important. Even if it's not in the same industry, I feel like if you have just a moment of your time to ask questions, you know, to someone that maybe you find that you relate to in some shape, way, or form or fashion, you'll be okay. You know, I think you know, we just have to find it in ourselves to ask. So at the time, the person I was with, he was a chef. So it started off as pop-ups. We would go to like day and night and, you know, other day parties and like just serve food, you know, and it kind of like that allowed them the opportunity to kind of test out their food options. And, you know, he had a friend, who is the second chef that was a part of the team, and they would go around and like buy out restaurants for a night and like serve their menus and like do a special offering or, you know, present a special menu for that evening, because I think at the time restaurants had slow nights, so they would come in and like, you know, do a 50-person seating and then serve their food. And there was 3 of us. And then one of the restaurants that we did one of these pop-ups at were so blown away by this menu that happened to be what is Dirty Bird now. They're like, you know, we want to get on board. We want to help you, you know, open your first restaurant. And like that guy was like the manager of the restaurant that we were at. 4th person came in. Then we're like, okay, so the owner of that restaurant decided that he was on board with this restaurant idea, and he was already an owner, so of the restaurant, so he was already in the business. He knew what it took to open up a restaurant. And so, I forgot to mention that we were on a food truck, and we ended up serving Kanye and Drake that night. It was like ice storm, and yeah, they had a concert here, and then we ended up at like Bathurst and King, and they were there doing an after party, but they loved it. So the owner of that restaurant loved the menu and was completely on board. So that made 5 of us, and that was the original 5 that opened up Dirty Bird in Kensington. You know, again, new to the business, we don't know what's going on. At the end of the day, everyone puts in an equal amount of money, and then, you know, you open up this place. And, you know, then came in the legalities of it, the shareholders agreements, the rental leases and the franchise leases, and like it just spiraled so fast. As someone who, again, no mentorship, nobody to turn to, nobody to ask. All they're asking is money, money, money. Pay these lawyers. You know, hopefully they're acting in your best interest. I think that screwed us for sure. For sure. It was such a great concept. I think in the end it got soiled by just, again, people not knowing any better, people getting over each other, taking advantage of people, and then we just had to exit. It was too much after opening the location at Pearson. So RMP Home stands for Rich and Poor. Basically, you know, a rich look for a poor budget. Me and my girlfriend, again, childhood friend, we've known each other since we were 3, was doing renos, like residential renos. So I was like, that's cool. Like, you know, I I was helping her make suggestions and, you know, kind of just seeing her progress. I'm like, that's amazing. Like, she would gut a house and then completely transform it. Meanwhile, on my side, I'm there, you know, designing stores for Dirty Bird, making selections, opening other locations, trying to like replicate the same look and feel. So mine was more on a commercial side. And then my partner at the time, again, opened another restaurant, Jamaican concept, you know, and we worked on that together as well. So we designed the whole space. It was a beautiful, you know, execution. And then eventually it kind of just turned into a ramen noodle spot. So me and my girlfriend, again, then we decided, hey, like, we both have an interest in like interior design. We both have a network that we can definitely tap into. Let's try a thing, is what I say all the time. Again, like, this was her baby because she comes from a film and television background. So she's familiar with all those terms and, like, I don't know, auditions and pilot seasons and all that kind of thing. I think the production house was looking for a host at the time. So they had like an idea, a concept for a show, and then she auditioned for it, and then she got it. And then it's kind of like we just finished the second season, so it's kind of morphed into this like reno and staging show that, again, HGTV hasn't really, they done the renos, but they haven't done the staging part. And I guess the difference with staging is just, it's just not so permanent, you know? And I think a lot of their shows revolve around the building and the drama that happens between like clients and contractors. And I guess in that sense, we helped to mold it into what it is today. Because I don't think the production house had any idea of what it is that we do. So they allowed us to like the freedom to kind of like show them our business model, how we operate as a family-owned business. Because I'll tell you, 90% of our workers, or, you know, our staff is Nicole's family. So her background, she's also Guyanese, big family. So, you know, if it's not her brother, if it's not her mom, it's her cousin, you know, her fiance, like, it's just a big family thing. It's again, very new. We're only on season 2, so hopefully, you know, it gets renewed again. For sure. Like, and I think even for my son, like, you know, I just want to be able to provide some sort of blueprint as to like how to avoid these pitfalls of entrepreneurship, even just self-confidence, self-esteem, you know, being able to speak for yourself, defend yourself. If you're, you know, like, again, the group that I volunteered with is called Power to Girls, and they focus on, you know, girls of color, coming up from like JK onwards up to high school. You know, we talk about just simple things, hygiene, you know, menstrual cycles, you know, boys or relationships, or, you know, like these kinds of everyday issues. Like, I mention it a lot. I never had that. So I feel like giving back to the community in a way that I feel like I needed it is very near and dear to me, especially young girls of color. Because, I mean, you know, racism exists. It exists everywhere, from the mall to the workplace, in schools, you know, even in your house. You know, it's very hard to navigate when you're by yourself. And I think it's important to like utilize these types of resources, because as young people growing up, you know, now they turn to their cell phones and TikTok and YouTube. And I feel like not every thing you see online applies to you, and yet they will somehow make it relatable to them. And, you know, they need that one-on-one time with like an actual human, and have that interaction again to know how to communicate, to socialize, to like network, and like build up those kinds of skills and be confident in themselves, and, you know, help themselves into like building a better life for them. That is very, very important to me. A part of it is like it's demotivating for sure. I think, you know, not seeing representation, people that look like me in these rooms, it fuels me to like want to do better and be better, and like, you know, go into these bigger rooms. Because I think even in boardrooms, you know, you see all of these people and they look at you like you're a kid. They don't respect you. All the while, you know, graduate, have degree, have diploma, have this experience, have, you know, this business. You know, it's in Pearson Airport. It's like, it's had 5 locations. It's like, you know, I hate having to run down my resume to justify why I'm in this room. I'm just here, guys. Like, let's be real. Like, I'm obviously in here for a reason. And I think a lot of that is based on what they see on TV, or like, you know, like they just don't have the experience of dealing with people of color. It's weird. And I'm just saying, in 2023, we're still dealing with this. And I just, you know, like, again, it's just like, acknowledge what's happening around us, be vocal about what it is you're doing, and like where you want to be in life, you know, and like continue down that journey. Don't let people shut you up. Don't let people put you in boxes. Allow yourself to be who you are and express yourself, you know, freely. I mean, I can start off just when he was younger, you know, the whole saying, like, it takes a village. I think that is so key to raising a child. You know, I leaned on my in-laws at the time. His father was very present and still is very present in his life. And like, you know, even though me and him didn't end up working out, honestly, like, I can really say that he pulled his weight. As bitter as I may have been about the breakup, I still, you know, like, I still had to like kind of like compartmentalize what's happening and realize, like, hey, my son needs his father. I'm allowing him to spend time with his father, his in-laws, my mom at the time, and my girlfriends who are his aunties. Like, he was being dropped off all around town because I needed the support. And at the time, like, I wouldn't necessarily say calendar blocking, but I know, like, during the day I have to prepare his lunches for school, pick him up, drop him off, extracurriculars, like all of that stuff was happening as I was managing these businesses. And now that he's older, you know, he's on his way out, to be honest. So I feel like I did my time. You know, he's a contributing member of society. You know, he's going to school, he's staying out of jail. Like, even the joke is, like, my girlfriend was a high school teacher, and that high school I sent him to, and my friend watched him like a hawk. So it was like, again, the idea of this village, she made sure that he was okay. And I think this part of the social aspect of it is just being able to make friends, you know, in every industry, doing all kinds of things, so that at any given time I can call on someone and say, hey, you know, my son's coming to your high school. Do you mind keeping an eye on him? You know, and I thought that was genius, because, you know, we're talking about this party, that party, this party, and then she'll say, hey, Flo, this is going on with Ty at school or whatnot. And then I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you know, where otherwise I wouldn't have that access. I'd have to book a parent-teacher interview, do this and that, like the whole thing. And I think I've been blessed that way, because it's just like I know people all over the place. So it's just like it worked out in my favor, man. So I see a lot of the qualities of myself in him, that he's just super independent. He's really kind. He, you know, he has like a charisma that people just, you know, gravitate towards him. Like, he's seen me work. He's seen me, you know, go through my depression and my bouts, and, you know, has celebrated all my successes. He's been there obviously from day one. You know, he's learned to like, you know, to survive and thrive, using his own resources and his own networks. And like, I'm just so proud of how he's grown up. And obviously everyone has had a hand in that, and I can't just take credit for it. I feel like, you know, that's something that I can attribute to the people around me. And that again speaks volumes as to, you know, the type of person I am, and then as a reflection, the type of person that he is. Tokyo was obviously the most recent, but the way that they operate, the efficiency, the productivity, like they think of everything. It's amazing. And I'm saying, as North Americans, we feel like the Western side runs the world. And I'm telling you, these guys, they have it down to a science. Everything's automated. They don't even have cashiers. You pay at a vending machine outside the restaurant. You pay for what you want. The menu's in Japanese and in English, and you just pay for it with your bus pass. You go inside and the meal's ready for you. It's just like, even in Italy, like the aging population and the respect young people have for them. You know, like that to me is like, these are, you know, the OGs, they've been around, they know what's going on. And, you know, like here you'll see the young kids like push them down on the subway. It's just so odd. Traveling around, you learn a lot. And I will continue to travel to different places to see how they employ these types of principles and fundamentals, where it's just like, again, you want to be a better person. You know what I mean? And that will cascade into the other facets of your life, where it's like your businesses, you know, your relationships with your family, your friends, your community. It kind of just, it doesn't stop. So definitely highly recommended. Definitely energy. Like I feel like when we talk to someone, even just the first 5 minutes, you see what they're talking about. If it's just, you know, I do this and I do that and I do this, and it's just kind of like you get it right away. Hey, this person's like really focused on what they're doing. They're not interested in like hearing about what other people have to say or contribute. So, you know, that energy doesn't lie. And it's just like, again, if we're talking about, I don't know, branding or marketing, and they get just as excited as me, and we're like, yeah, like, you know, right off the top, already in a good space. I totally believe in this idea that energy will, you know, your energy will introduce you first before you even say a word. So I try to be positive and like, you know, again, you can see I get really animated when I'm talking about stuff that I like. Energy doesn't lie. I feel like, and that's kind of like just in every facet of your life, where it's just like, you know, your boss or, you know, your colleague or, you know, your friend. It's like you can tell they're off, or you can tell something's going on just based on like the vibes that they're giving off. I think it's so critical. Like you work with someone who does what they say. In this environment, it's like, you know, everybody's a mover and shaker, and like, you know, they want to do this and they want to do that. But it's, at the end of the day, you can say all you want. But if you do not produce and you do not follow up on what it is you're talking about, that to me, complete red flag. So if I say, hey, come meet me and we're going to, you know, have this type of deliverable, you know, due on this date, just do it. Just do it. I'm not even pressing you for the time due date. You tell me, do what you got to do and let me know when you need me to step in. But if I have to follow up, if I have to run you down, if I have to continue to say, you know, what's happening with this or what, that to me is like, you're not carrying your weight. And honestly, it becomes exhausting. And it's like, you know, we learn this very early in school, where it's just kind of like, hey, like your word is your bond. Like at the end of the day, that's all we have. I can pay you endless amounts of money, but if you don't do what you say you're going to do, it doesn't matter anymore. You know, and I think building that level of trust, even if it's just, again, with a stranger, in that sense, it's like, there's nothing I can do but trust your word. So if your word means nothing, like that to me is, you know, I stay away from that far and clear. You know, my partner now, you know, says if it didn't end bad, it would never end at all. It's true, because I feel like things have to explode. People gotta yell and scream before it's like, okay, I'm done. Like, you know, and there's never like this moment in time where it's just like, we can just walk away peacefully. Because I think, again, it's just like human nature for us to have like closure, you know? And, you know, honesty is the best policy. I think communication is key. If you're not able to communicate freely with your partners, then, you know, everything is lost. People are left to interpret, you know, on their own. They're left to, you know, to build up scenarios in their mind on their own. And I think that's so dangerous, because it's just like what could be happening in their minds is not really what's happening. So it's like, at the end of the day, I need to just be able to communicate with you and say, hey, this is going on. Let's see if we can do something about it. Let's talk about it. Let's see if we can come to some sort of resolution. Because at this stage of the game, it's like, why are we not talking to one another? Why are we so programmed to like text somebody, hey, like, you know, F you, or I don't want to deal with this or whatever. It's just like, what have we become in, you know, in this society where it's like, we're just scared to talk to people, or we just refuse. Like I said, like a lot of people are just saying, I'm cutting it off because, they didn't serve their purpose. And I'm just saying, what does that get you? Like, maybe they're going through something. Maybe they're, dealing with something. You don't know until you ask. In this scenario, I'd say like communication and honesty. Like, I haven't been an advocate for that, all throughout my life, but I've learned like, hey, if you don't speak up, if you're not honest about things, then you know what I mean? Things blow up. I've learned that you need to just be able to communicate. Just like the analogy of like a business being a child and you're two parents. You have to still take care of the child. So regardless if me and you are talking, the child still needs to be taken care of. So I see it in that way too, where it's like a business still needs to operate, even if we're not friends. And I think a lot of people don't know how to separate the two. For me, it becomes meaningful where it's like you're having conversations about the work that you're trying to do, and you'll send examples and say, hey, what do you think about this? And you welcome them into your network to allow them to see the work that you're doing, the work that you're trying to do. And I think the genuine conversations around those types of interactions are meaningful, because we always say, hey, yeah, we'll call, or yeah, we're gonna meet, and like nothing ever comes to fruition. And I don't like that. I don't like it when people are saying, yeah, let's do this, and then nothing ever happens. Over time, I've learned how meaningful it is for someone to just come through on their word. Again, being able to collaborate with people who are just as enthusiastic or, excited about the work that they're doing, just like I am. I want to be around these people. I want to be able to like feed off their energy and like build new things and creative things and build experiences that people can enjoy. It's just this idea of community and allowing your audiences to know who you are as a person. I think that's so important. Opening Dirty Bird doors, Kensington Market, never in a million years did I think I'd be back working as a cashier at a restaurant, like, because I worked at McDonald's and I hated it. But, because it was my own business, I felt like that was like a real, like, I don't know, it just felt surreal. It didn't even feel real. Here we're serving up a meal that we concocted in our head. We were serving on a food truck at a club. And now, it's here. It's brick and mortar. We're here serving, customers. And like that to me was, really nice. I felt like, well executed. Finally, after all, we were planning that for maybe 2 years, and it literally felt like I gave birth. Even RMP Home, it's like when we finally got the keys to our office space, because we were working out of a garage, my girlfriend's garage. Her garage was our warehouse. And now we're in this, huge place. And it's just like, there are, again, shining moments that I will continue to, relive in that sense. Because when the show premiered, we had like a whole big activation at a restaurant, and it was like being aired on a major network. And I'm just like, this is amazing. Again, little girl from, the park. I just never envisioned what my life would be like, decades later. And so it's been one hell of a whirlwind. I will say that. Don't be afraid of failure. We always talk ourselves out of doing things. And I'm just saying, if you just try, you never know what can happen. Try your best. Give it your all. Give it an honest try. You will be well on your way to starting something. We don't know where it's going to go. You don't know what the future holds. Believe me when I say no one knew the pandemic was coming. And yet people had to, pivot. They built new businesses around it. Businesses failed. And, and everyone's, somewhat here in the sense that we survived. Keeping your word, being honest, being a good person, being kind will allow you to, get through doors that say otherwise you wouldn't have access to because you had a bad attitude or your energy was off, or, you just weren't open-minded about it. And I'm just saying in that sense, just be open-minded about whatever is coming your way. You just never know what's going to happen. You never know. And so don't be so quick to shut things down without exploring. It's like in anything in life, you have to be an active participant in what it is you're trying to pursue. There's never going to be a time where you're going to be sitting down and the opportunity is just going to land in your lap. It doesn't happen. So the idea is that if you want it, you have to work for it. Go out there and get it. You got to attract it. There's something to be said about being an active participant in your future. You know, you can make decisions that will better you in a way that you have no idea. Continue to believe in yourself and don't allow yourself to let people sway you from what it is that you are trying to do for yourself. As much as you feel like giving up, don't. You have so much life to live. Do not allow this moment in time to deter you from what it is you want to do. It's a tough world out there. It's hard. Life is not easy. But if you stay focused and you know who you are, you will give yourself plenty of opportunity to do better for yourself. Hey, this is Flo King, and you're watching The Hustle Never Dies.